Hello everyone, it's Linda Ockwell-Jenner here, co-founder of the Small Business Community Network with another SBCN Small Biz Perspectives, and I have my friend Steve Bentley, Northern River Financial, with me again tonight. Hi Steve.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing really well. Haven't got any problems with the weather, jokingly. We've had a terrible ice storm, haven't we?
We have, especially when we were both out early this morning. It wasn't the greatest.
No, and I managed to get lost in my own neighbourhood. Don't ask how. So been looking at all the new, the new small business news out there, and I'm really interested in what the experts are saying, that small businesses should be adopting certain trends for 2018. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't have to do everything that the experts say, because it may not be a good thing for your business. And I guess the first one I want to start with, Steve, is live streaming, which, as you know, the SBCN has been doing for quite some time for our, networking events and everything. So do you think if you're a small business, you should necessarily be taking on stuff like, Facebook Live and stuff like that?
I think it depends on if you know what you're doing.
Yes.
Because I see so many live streams out there where it's dark, you can't see the person, the sound is not great. So it does have a real use in some businesses, but I think you can't just have everybody use it. You have to have a reason for why you want to use it, and you have to do it properly. Yeah,
because it can damage your brand, your credibility. So, like I said, I've got some notes tonight. I'm being a good girl. So Mark Zuckerberg, we all know who he is, and don't get picking on him. I feel bad for the guy. In 2016, he announced Facebook Live, and he said, it's like having a TV camera in your pocket. Anyone with a phone now has the power to broadcast to anyone in the world. And you feel more connected in a personal way. And this is a big shift in how we communicate. And it's going to create new opportunities for people to come together. But like you've just indicated, and I always say this to my clients, don't just do something because the whole world are doing it. So does it bring, do you think, new opportunities for people to come together?
That's an open question with respect to social media, because not only does Facebook...
Not social media, though, but live streaming in particular.
Sure, but I'm saying that all the social media channels have their own version of live streaming.
Yeah.
But I think Facebook was one of the first. I think Twitter was Periscope. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. But I think for him, forgetting about what he was saying in Congress this week.
Not allowed.
Okay.
No picking on.
You know me, I get into the politics sometimes. I find that it is a very useful tool. And I think the one thing that's nice about Facebook, for example, as FaceTime or live streaming, is those are available for people, small business owners, entrepreneurs, to use, but there's no cost to them, right? So there's a lot of tools that you can use to enhance your communication ability with clients, with industry people, with whoever you want to communicate with. But I go back to the premise that it has to be prepared and you have to have good content. So, I don't really want to see a live streaming of somebody having a coffee in a busy coffee shop, right? Or tucked into a corner. I think there's got to be a proper form. I think there's got to be a proper reason that you're doing it. It has to be communicated too. But I think there's a lot of ways of teaching people and sharing information and having that visual contact as opposed to just doing it through.
There's a couple of funny things you said there. One was, not last week. The first time I did SPC Coffee Connect at the coffee shop. So for everybody who's, watching the video, it's a new concept the SBCN are offering, where people come to this coffee shop, and I'll be there with Steve and a few of our other members, and we're there to meet new people, mentor, and just have a conversation. So, Stephen, I did my first live stream for the SBCN Connect at that coffee shop. But no, it wasn't successful for many reasons.
I'm not saying anything.
Good point. The other thing,
you tried.
I tried. What it did for me, it alerted people on Facebook that were there at our first event. We were ready to go. But I'm a bit of a prima donna. If I haven't got the right lighting and the right equipment, I don't just like going on camera. I'm better than that. You're supposed to smile.
Yeah, but I think you're just using it in the Coffee Connect as an example is a good example for people. Sorry to use the word example twice, but for people to be able to see what it's about, right?
Yes,
because you can say, come out to this, or this is a great opportunity. But when people can actually see the type of conversations and the kind of camaraderie
It is
in a very
beneficial.
social environment, it kind of makes it warmer for people to want to try things. So I think some people are, a little timid stepping out of their comfort zone in terms of going and
I
connecting with
am.
people. And this
Yeah,
is a good intermediate step between that
yeah,
and formal
it is.
networking.
And when you talk about Periscope, which I don't know if it's died a death, I mean, I used that at a conference a few years ago, and I didn't know how to, I wasn't prepared, I didn't know how to turn it round, so I didn't want it to see me, I wanted it to see who was at the conference. So I think the word prepared is good there. Moving on, this is a good one, Steve, and I have to admit, I only know a bit about this through Dave, my cybersecurity husband, so I don't know how much you know about it. Artificial intelligence. Um, because it's popular, evidently, we got Amazon's Alexa and Apple's Siri, which I use Siri. I know this sounds blonde. I didn't know Siri was artificial intelligence. I thought artificial intelligence was like the things the spies do, But I guess that is what spies could do if you think about it.
I think artificial intelligence is a lot broader than a lot of people think it is, right? I mean, I remember a Big Bang episode where actually Raj actually goes and meets the voice of Siri and he actually starts dating Siri,
Really?
so they're kind of doing a parody on it, the fact that it's not a real person. But if you look at some of the intercommunication in homes and in businesses now, there's a real change in terms of using some of these artificial intelligence tools because there's ways of communicating, like if you're in your home or if you're in a business environment where you can actually direct lighting and you can direct audio visual and you can direct a lot of different things just through voice command. And certainly a lot more of our functionality on our computers, iPads, if that is what you have, and Samsung can be done by voice. Even Google searches can be done by voice. So it's really creeping in a lot, I think, more than people realize in terms of our everyday
So
business
that's
practices.
that's the things, and then I knew a little bit about this, but again, I'm going with my notes. 98% of organisations are collecting information, no mention in Facebook, to build uh, the strategy. So what can you do now? You can invest in data collection, integration, and training for the strategy. So I call a small business 1 to 500, but I wouldn't think a startup would be actually doing all those things when they first start their business, like, unless it was a techie startup.
I
Which
think
kind of,
that's the point. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was just going to
which kind
say.
of
Except for a
businesses?
startup, it's in tech environment. They use a lot of those tools. But just to premise something there, I mean, collecting data.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize how much a lot of the tools out there, social media sites, whoever, are collecting our data. And they're doing it under the guise of using it for marketing and direction of ads and direction of marketing information. People have to be guarded about the information they put onto social media platforms. And because, the thing I love to do is, what do you look like when you're 80? So you go and enter your information. You're releasing it to whoever's doing that, and great, you get a nice little picture at the end. But I think what's going on in Washington right now, what's just gone on with is Facebook is really just coming down to the nitty gritty. There's really not a lot of controls on data and the use of data.
Moving on to, like, the things you were talking about, say in our home or our home office. So we have a smart TV, whatever you want to call it, a 4K or something, in Dave's music studio downstairs, and it's
Mm-hmm.
got the ability, you can talk to it and you can give it instructions. A few people say that means it's always listening to you. So is that artificial intelligence in a sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like I said, there's so many variations people are not aware of, right? I mean, when my TV talks to me, it tells me that I've watched enough TV and it turns itself off. But I got a 4K TV too. And, as much as, and I think it comes down to, we have devices and probably we know how to use maybe 20% of the information and the tools that are in there. And even further is people don't understand what information, again, is being put out there into a public stream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the challenge, right?
It
So,
is, yeah.
when it comes down to a lot of the home automation, I mean, you can integrate your lights, your temperature control, your TV, your music, your doors, your blinds. I mean, there's so many things that you can automate and actually operate just from your phone,
Let me
right?
jump in there. So we'll give a plug
Mm.
to one of our small businesses, Nathan and Holly Parsons, Verve Home. They do an awful lot of that, don't they?
Yeah, actually, I'm just reading they won another award today, which is great.
Yay! Congratulations.
But yeah, they're big in that. I mean, when
But they're
when
not
when Nathan,
spies. They're not. They're
no,
not
no, no, no.
collecting our data. What it can do for the businesses who are going to adopt the artificial intelligence, evidently, it can improve the business model. relationship with customers, analytics, and marketing. But the customers need to know that really very, very quickly, again, I don't want to keep going about Facebook, but it's kind of like what Facebook are doing. It's harvesting information that will help the customer. So I just want people to realise that if they don't want to be into this, collecting the data, artificial intelligence, to be able to know how to switch stuff off or what not to do. So I don't think really small businesses into this, Steve, but I think the larger businesses will be. The next one you will love, customer focus. Customer focus. So I'm big with this. Technology, the digital revolution's been going on for years, but basically engaging with your customers in a different way, but still keeping that. Have you heard of chatbots?
I have not heard of that. Yeah, there you go. There's another one.
So basically, it'll assist web visitors. So I'm trying to think which one. I think, and again, I'm not the techie person. I wish Dave was here. We have something called Stripe, I guess, and it's to do with Square and, collecting money, third party, yeah?
Yeah.
And so often if I log into there, what I believe to be a chatbot will pop up and say, can I help you? Have you got any questions?
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yes, yeah? Absolutely. I was on one today with Microsoft.
It is. So it assists the web visitors and actively feeds, it gives us feedback, customer surveys, stuff like that. But I mean, again, when you're a brand new business, is this something you're going to be spending money on to implement in your business? It says it's a big trend for 2018, but what kind of business would you think would adopt this kind of, strategy?
Well, I give you a perfect example of those large businesses. I find, in general, using a chat function is a lot easier than trying to email somebody or trying to call somebody.
Yeah, or fill in a form.
Today that I used a chat form.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that I used a chat form and it was very effective and I got my problem solved. But I think that costs money when you start to look at some of this infrastructure. I think most small businesses, entrepreneurs, and unless they're in a tech space or in an area where that's really more prevalent, are not moving that way because they don't understand the technology. They don't understand the options that are out there. And I think it's just a couple different ways that people as customers can communicate with you, right? And I think, it's important for businesses to explore those things because if you look at our business, we're very much of a digital business. We do a lot of things electronically. We don't have a chat function, but actually I'm looking at that, to be honest with you. Or online booking appointments, to be honest with you. We do that, for example.
Yeah.
And we have no paper files. We've gone to a digital format. So it's part of business development, whether you like it or not. That's where business is going. And so I think small businesses need to decide what is ahead of them and make sure they're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I would say, Bill, if you're a startup, not in the techie world in particular, and you're brand new, you've got to watch where you spend your budget. So a lot of small businesses are reading all this, the new trends for 2018. So I've got to do that. And I would caution them and say, make sure you have your business strategy plan from A, B, C, D before you jump in. I've just got one more. I'm not very good with this one. Payment shifts. So basically, for instance, Dave now, he's a show off. He loves to hold his Apple Watch up and pay at, McDonald's or pay, So that is a shift in payments. But again, I can see a problem there where people say, well, somebody stole something because I paid with my Apple Watch. Well, they could steal something if you pay with your credit card, couldn't they? Evidently, it's the streamlined bookkeeping now. Do you know much about this streamlined bookkeeping? What are the new concepts for 2018 that's supposed to be a new trend? Do you know much about that kind of thing?
Not the term per se, but I think there's a lot of you talk about a lot of these tools, and I think a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of apps out there that actually can do a lot of that stuff for you, whether it's bookkeeping, accounting, payment structures, and you don't really have to pay a lot. I mean, we're talking just not directly on payment side, but we're talking on Skype right now, which is a perfect example of something that's very inexpensive that you can use to either have communications with clients or do videos and that kind of thing too. But I think people need to understand there's with PayPal and all these different forms for being able to collect money from customers, for example, we're moving away from the traditional forms, right? I think we're using a lot more electronic payment formats. We're using email transfers. We're using PayPal. And Square is another way that you can automate your business, right? Yeah, so I think that's a very important tool. And the only cost there is a transactional cost, right? The device is there. But I think you want to try and create a lot of ability for customers to engage with you. So if you can facilitate however you're doing business with them and the processes that you employ, the easier you make it for them, the more you're going to actually benefit from working with clients.
It definitely said this is one of the biggest trends for 2018. More customers than ever will expect digital payment options. And for instance, I don't know about you, Steve, but I never normally carry cash with me or change. I don't. I'm sorry, I've got out of it. And been using car parks a lot lately, downtown Kitchener, places like that, hospitals. And you need change. Would you believe a lot of them don't accept credit cards? And so in England, you know, when we was in England last year, we were able to pay for our car park with our phone. Don't ask me how it worked, but it was amazing, and it was all secure. Now, somebody says they do something like that in Toronto, but you have to buy coupons or tokens or something. It was amazing. So I definitely like this trend where, you know, we don't have to worry about not being able to pay online. And if it's secure, for the small businesses out there, I would say speak to someone like Steve if it's financial, because they might not understand the implications, might they, if it's a new trend and they're getting a bit confused.
I think the big thing you mentioned there too is security. You got to be very careful if you're going to engage these tools and use them for the clients. You need to understand them and need to make sure you're maintaining and keeping their data and their information secure. So, you know, that could kill a business. And how many examples have we seen where there's been leaked information, people's credit cards have been compromised, and huge companies, you know?
It's going to keep happening, though. It's going to get worse.
It is.
That shouldn't scare people
there's people
away.
that are people are testing the systems, right? I mean, they're going out and they're hacking and they're pushing, and so you look at somebody like Dave. I don't know how he keeps on top of all of the different things that people are trying to do in cybersecurity and testing and trying to get into systems and computer systems. And
that's supposed to be a secret.
Fun, you know?
Shush. But we've gone through 4 of the most important new trends for 2018, which you and I have already been using. We're early adopters, and now more of the small businesses are being urged to use them. So I guess our message to them, Steve, is, well, look at your needs, look at your budget, look at, you know, where you are in your business. If you're primarily a techie company, if you're a brand new startup, you may not need to adopt all these new trends immediately. You may just go slowly and start with one and then maybe try another one and implement them slowly.
Well, I think people like to try every new thing that comes out there, and they really don't know, you know, unless they take the time, understand what it is and how it's going to benefit their business. A lot of them just say, well, that's a new trend. We got to get on it and use it. And a lot of people don't necessarily use it properly, and it's very important because you don't know the damage you can cause when you're starting to use, you know, things where people's information is involved. And so I think it's important that you choose the ones that work for you, make sure you know how to use them and use them effectively in your business, or don't even bother.
Or as a trusted expert that you believe.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I cannot believe we've managed to get through this, Steve, without actually bursting into tears, because there was like a halo behind me, or a phone call, or you've said something naughty. We've been very good today, haven't we?
I never say anything naughty.
That's true. It's always me.
Well, at least online.
So listen, thank you for another SBCN Perspectives video moment. I really enjoy having them with you. And I'll see you next week.
All right, take care.
Thank you.